All right, so we're going to try doing another looking deeper. Um, this is not a professional game like the Benjamin Bach Under 14 Dutch Junior Championship game. This is just I went into the opening tree, found the opening that we've decided to use this year, which is the Scotch, and I've kind of spent some time analyzing the game, going through it, what I think both players could be better. I think I can um, at least give an idea of the flow of the game, and then I went back through again to try and look at like the variation. So I kind of understand, I believe, for the most part, what the players were thinking when they played them, and then what can we do better. So this is video number 2. Let's get into it. I decided on the Scotch. This is all kind of opening theory. And then actually, when looking for the game, these are two, by the way, sorry. These are two 1800s. They are 200 points above me. So let's not pretend that I can do any better than them at all. So both these people will probably beat me without a large amount of issues. So that's one caveat. The other caveat is that this is 10-0 rapid, so there is a little bit of forgiveness for certain blunders. Anyway, knight takes d4, bishop c5, bishop e3. Now, bishop e3, I didn't completely know. I feel like I read in a book at one point that queen h4 can be a lot of issues here, but I couldn't find it. I think that was maybe, no, because that would block it, but whatever. So this is just you're defending with development. Okay, so now we're developing. They're going to take here and here. And so they kind of liquidate, and then we do have this attack on the G7 square. And this is kind of it's a harder thing to defend a bit if you think about it, because if we say defend it with the knight, you immediately get kicked. And then kind of what happens in the game, say you defend it with the queen, you also immediately get kicked. Another way to maybe defend it would be to not defend it. Which is one of the ideas I had, which was say bishop e7, queen takes, and you're here. And I think white is better here. But I think there's still play for both sides to be had. Yeah, you're probably going to lose this pawn, but then the goal of the game kind of becomes develop your queen side and then bring all your pieces to the king side for an attack on over here. I do think white is better here, but I don't think it's super duper better. I did check the starting out Scotch opening book I have, and in this position, technically speaking, this is the strongest move. Do I know why? It just adds another attacker, and then this stops this idea because you're no longer attacking the queen. They can just take on e2, and you have double pawns, and you get to take back. So anyway, that's why this is kind of a stronger move. You can't push it back anymore because the knight and yada yada and neener. But that was not what was played. Bishop takes, queen takes with the strong attack, queen f6 trying to trade. And I really like the e5 move. Is it best? I don't know, probably. But mostly because if you take, they now get to take with development. And I feel like in these kinds of end games, you want to be ahead in development to get your pieces on the best possible squares, because they now have a threat, and you're gonna have to defend it, be it with the bishop, and then the bishop maybe come in here, and then there's just a lot of stuff that can happen. And if you're not the one that's ahead in development, I feel like you're doing a lot of reacting. So we go e5. Queen b6. I actually don't like this move. As you can see, I feel like maybe e6 could have been better. Because there's no easy way to attack the queen. Yes, it's in front of your so like e6, maybe something over here develop, and you can actually still develop this knight because the pawn is pinned, and say something like this happens. Well, now we have, oops. I don't know. I didn't think this far, as you can see. Anyway, queen e6 might not be too bad. Maybe just don't develop the knight next and figure out how you're going to get your light squared bishop out. So the light squared bishop is why I don't really like queen b6 in this position. Maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe it's perfectly fine. But white kind of has a bit of an issue, or black has an issue now with developing their light squared bishop. You can't push the d pawn, or you're going to get an isolated pawn that's going to become a target. This is going to take at least 2 moves. You can't really develop your knight. You can't do, all this extra stuff. And when I was first looking at, and so that's why, by the way, I do have, this is kind of like a soft script. So I think the idea behind A3 is to get all their pawns on dark squares so that their bishop has more mobility, and then the opponent's bishop cannot attack their bishop. And if your pawns are on dark squares and the opponent's pawns are moving up, the opponent's pawns are on light squares, so technically you can attack those easier, right? Even though they could defend them, but whatever, you know what I'm saying. And so I actually don't like this move. At first, you go through it, you click through the game to try and find the like theme of the game, and this was a pretty brutal beatdown. There's no hung pieces that I could see, at least. The tactics are generally found that I could see, at least. And so it was a struggle to like go through and find errors for kind of the good guy of the story, the Scotch player that we want to emulate. And I think this is one of them, because here I would say F5 or F6, F5, and why, right? Because we are developing and we've taken this pawn out of the game so that now we can develop our light squared bishop. Because, hindsight's 2020. That's another thing about kind of doing these like looking furthers. Hindsight's 2020, and this bishop is just a miserable existence the entire game. So e7, I don't like e7 just because how are we getting our light squared bishop out? And as soon as they go f4, solidifying their pawn in the center, creating space. So now black is probably going to be feeling a little more cramped. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the pawn moves. I feel like pawn moves could have been made a little later. Here, just simple developing, here to here, developing. That's where my stress is at this point. Maybe this is is what it is. But again, now you don't have the same pawn breaks that you did before. So with knight e4, knight e7, sorry, you had the pawn break to kind of relieve a little bit of the pressure. Now you don't really have that, because now you've got an isolated pawn. If you push this, now you've got an isolated pawn. Castling, I get it. Get your king to safety. You're told to castle. I also don't like the move, castle. I feel like this is a mistake. I think that you're crushed a little bit. You need to start figuring out how you're going to get your pieces out. Maybe knight g6, double attacking these, but then they have g3, and you're like, oh, well, now I don't really know what I'm doing again. But f6, right? Just trying to relieve a little bit of that pressure. It is going to probably leave you with a doubled pawn, but you know what? At least you can continue to develop. You have something to do. I'm also not a big fan of the single pawn, but I couldn't find a lot of other great moves. Maybe throwing f5 in, and in this way. So knight f5. This is another one that I thought of. Knight f5, developing, and then d5. If they take, congratulations, it's defended. if they take en passant, you can actually just come back. Again, your light squared bishop is open, and you have, I feel, a lot more play in this position. So castling, I get your king off of the center. I do think the priorities were a little off on this, especially because in the end game, I feel like you want your king more in the center. Knight c3, we're just developing. c6, this one, I struggled for a bit to figure out what we're doing with c6. And I think the idea behind it is to protect b5 and then maybe go b4. And start moving these pawns to get these pawns out of the way, since d6 to open up the light square bishop feels impossible. So that's kind of part of it. I think like in this position, black is, you got to do something. You're crushed. There's not a lot of moves to actually be made. I think here this might still work. c5, if they develop, you can still come here with the same idea. It's not perfect, it's not great, but you at least, I feel, have a lot more play, say, in this kind of position. Even though your knight is dominated by the light squared bishop, but it's better than whatever this is. b5. The problem with b5, in my opinion, a lot of I'm gonna try and quit saying that because all of this is my opinion. Is everything's on a light square. This is the worst bishop in the world, and you need to find a way to better get it out. And this idea of b5, b4, b6, or whatever, I think it's too slow. You got to figure it out. And then now, this is a super obvious move. You're going to go to one of these giant holes and just sit there because the knight's never going to be kicked. I don't understand this move either. Maybe it's to let's see if we can figure it out a little bit, right? Here it feels like another it feels kind of like a similar outpost, but I mean, see here. And then we're kind of, it's not great. It's not great. I don't really like it. So, and these are the moves that I struggle to like say, okay, sure, we're centralizing the knight. We're looking at this weak pawn. Okay, but not right now, right? Now I think you should focus on getting your light squared bishop out. That's a big struggle for me personally. G3 protects the bishop, and now we've got the b6 in, and we're looking to get the light squared bishop out. The problem is that knight d6 stops, one, this from ever happening. Two, you can't go here anymore to then try and get a nice strong diagonal, which would have been nice. But I think fantastic move, right? What are we doing here? This knight is a god of knights. Y'all have this one, but it's not nearly as good. So g6, this is another one. I cannot fully understand what the idea was. Maybe starting to try and push out on the king side because the middle looks slightly done. I think in the notes I said possibly limiting the scope of the bishop. So here, and then if it was me, I would have the idea of putting my king on g7 because there's no good way from the light squares to attack the knight or attack the king and like get a piece or whatever. And so kind of building yourself a little mini fortress that way. But they don't do that. They go here. Again, I don't super understand. So here, this is one of the situations where I don't see the threat that they're threatening, right? Maybe They're stopping something from coming here. Yeah. This is a threat I don't see, and this is the only part that I'm really struggling with, which is why I think it's a mistake. My recommendation in here, after looking at it for a while, was b4. I know, wild move, probably completely wrong, but you can't take it, right? That would be really nice. Thank you. And so you can't take it, and maybe you push. Because you are threatening, I mean, you can take it, right? And just start trading pieces off and trying to get, so hold on. If you don't do anything, let's go with just getting off the back rank, because now there is a threat. And if you take, this hole is now open. Well, outside of the king, but you know what I'm saying. Then maybe you could come here, try and trade off the dark squared bishops. It's not a fantastic situation to be in, but I feel like this is, again, closer than what we got in the game. So I think b4 is really good here. And if you push a4, you can go b5. You can start trying to trade off this secondary bishop for something better. And I think if you push again, well, now it's just like, well, what are we doing? I didn't actually look at this. What if you push again? You're not going to be protecting this enough, so what's probably going to happen is you come out here, and then you find a way to, let's see, we need to be on this square. So like here, whatever. Don't watch me struggle to figure out exactly. So you'd have to be on this square with the knight. That's going to take at least 3, depending on whatever route you can find. But heck, I mean, you could probably get away with pushing this one too. No, you can't. Anyway, and then now the goal is to come and attack this, because you probably won't be able to protect it enough. Maybe you push with the idea of pushing. I don't know. But I do think b4 is really good. Maybe the double push would have to be the critical line. So a4. What would we do? b5. Push again. And you can't really. And you say, whatever, and you're here. This is attacked twice, but honestly, for me, it would be more about opening the position than anything else. You could en passant it, and then we're actually up, and oops, you mouse slip. You could en passant it, but now we've actually kicked this super knight out. Maybe they come here. Could be annoying, but again, the thing about it is I feel like there's just not a lot of play for black. And here, outside of this pass pawn, if you can get it, here, make it push up one more time, and then I do think there's play here. So g6, I think, was a massive mistake. I would have put it under blunder, but these people are 200 points above me. I don't like g6. I like b5, b4 a lot, even though, looking into it further, maybe it also wasn't the best. And now that, we're really kind of looking into it, is maybe an f4. Or we go, well, why not? So, hold on, back here, right? We do castles. Sure. Okay, but back here, f4 here. If you're afraid of the check, just move the king. And actually, you've kind of relieved your position a bit. Because maybe the knight comes in, sure, but... Well, actually, now you have something like maybe this. Right? En passant, sure. You're still, I feel like, not in a terrible position. This is not the funnest thing in the world. And then now we blockade the pawn. There's no way to get at it. Our pieces are actually starting to come alive. Actually, hold on. If you didn't blockade the pawn, you just come here. What did I say? Here? Here. Hold on. What am I doing? What am I doing? Right? Here? What did I say? Right? This is why I suck. Did I say G3? No, I wanted F5 here. And then I said H8, E4. Get out of here. Why would you do that, you goober? So you wouldn't have to worry about that anymore, right? Okay, so E5, you want to do the check, you can do the check. Let's get rid of E4 because they wouldn't hang a piece like that. So now I feel like we're just in a little bit of a better position because, yeah, we maybe something like this. Let's see, what if they do, say here, whoop, no. C6. What are we doing? Where am I saying F5? Here? Where did I say F5 before? Here. I think here. We've realized the mistake. They've come out F5. They can't take because it's defended twice. Maybe they want to en passant it. But then we just throw down with a rook. Now we are starting to have some active pieces. And again, the ever important D5 is coming in and we're opening up our stuff. Not to mention, like, that there's just, if anything crosses in front of the king, you just pin him. Okay, sorry about that. I saw over here D5 would be really nice to just break open, or F5, sorry, would be really nice to break open the position, and having the knight here to further solidify everything. Or, I mean, maybe don't even do it here and do it here. And we're back. I mean, if you really want to trade pieces down like that, your advantage is going to go down. Okay, so B6. Yeah, I think F5 was definitely a missed opportunity. Or G6, E2, and then this just caused more issues. I'm not a fan of what white did here. Your light squared bishop is so stinking good that I don't fully agree with trading it off at this point. Not that, you know, black has a whole lot of other stuff. Now they're trying to, you know, clamp down the position. We go back to our super nice outpost. And looking at this position from black's perspective, I have no idea what I would do. No idea. Maybe you don't come in here. Maybe it's here. To come in here, maybe. And then if they come up, or if you come up, you can take. But then you can come in here maybe and just get your pieces active. So d6, super nice outpost. And then here a lot of the stuff is I don't agree with this. f7, you can just take this. This, I couldn't find a tactic that would hurt you. So with the white player, I don't fully agree on just trying to take the open file just yet, because you could have gotten rid of a threat. So they take c8, maybe a mouse slip, not completely sure, but your pieces are super vulnerable. Both rooks are actually lined up on this pawn, not necessarily the knight. So if you move the knight, though, you're going to lose the pawn. Knight doesn't have a lot of great places to go to begin with. Maybe something like here, cutting off this, cutting this off. But now you've kind of tied down both of your pieces. Okay. Anyway, d1 actually lining up on this pawn. They push the c pawn. Maybe thinking that they can push the pawn far enough. I'm not completely sure. d5, queen takes d5. Nice little tactic to win a pawn. And now they're a clean pawn up, and there's no way to defend this one, right? You can't get to the open file. I like this move here, protecting the b pawn. This is going nowhere, and it's impossible to protect. So why not? They push a pawn, and then now it's pretty simple. Push the pass pawn. Oh, it's attacked. Just go grab. Just stay close to it. d7, rooks belong on the 7th, and there's nothing, like the rook is stuck kind of here defending against this. You move it away, and they're going to go one up. It's tough. So the opponent goes for the a pawn. White goes rook b7, looking at the b pawn, protecting the b pawn. I don't know what this is. I don't know what the threat is to be here, to be perfectly honest. But they do repeat steps for whatever reason. They weren't low on time. I looked at the time and I didn't quite understand it. King f6, just threatening to start harassing the rook. Now the rook's kind of gonna go after, just away towards their passed pawn. But this is what's going to happen. c6. Funny enough, it is equally winning to just queen here. If they take the rook, you can take the rook, takes the rook, and this is still a winning endgame. You're going to have to get your king all the way down here by the time, and then I'm not going to do nothing but push. So absolutely crushing endgame. They instead took the pass pawn, king takes, and it's a very similar situation. They can come down here, but they can't come back, and they resigned. So this was a great game by two 1800s. I feel like is very instructive, and it's good for me as a lower-rated player to go through some of these games and figure out, well, how are other people playing? These aren't like the best moves in the world. Kind of like a3, right? Like in a master game, you're probably not going to see a3. Maybe. Well, we can check the opening database. Masters games. No, you're not going to see it. At least that we see. But in a Lichess database, you will. And so now you can kind of look through and see that, white's, it's not the best move. What are other people playing? Well, obviously here, and then for me, it's like knight c3, it's bishop d3, it's some kind of other developing move. A3 is not played a lot. It's apparently good for some reason, but it's not what I would have played. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video of looking closer, where we take a game that I didn't play, but really just kind of dig into it and see what we can learn / find. Sorry for the coughing. And we'll talk to y'all later.